Okay everyone, so we're going to go through the results of the last poll that I sent out, which was asking about the minimum acceptable time, as far as we know, for the provision of advice and advisory boards in both the UK but also Ireland as well, because as you know, quite often you have to do both countries. So most people said that the minimum acceptable amount of time for provision of advice was 70% for each country. So let's see what we actually know about the situation. So the situation for Ireland is relatively straightforward because they very helpfully, in the IPH code, the latest version of which went live on the 1st of June, so just a couple of days ago, and they actually in Annex 6, Section 1.4 say that presentations as part of the ad board must not exceed 40% of the time. Therefore, 60% would be likely the minimum acceptable time there left over for the provision of advice. In the UK, under the ABPI code, it really comes from case law. There was a case 3809823 with Bayer where the panel considered that 78% of the time dedicated to the provision of advice was at the outer limits of acceptability. However, Bayer very cleverly raised case 3335420, where 70% of the time had been spent on discussion and the provision of advice. In that case, the panel did query that this may be insufficient, this 70%, but at no point did they actually state that it was indeed unacceptable. From this, we can therefore conclude that the likely minimum acceptable amount of time would be about 60% in Ireland and 70% in the UK. However, these are not the amounts of time that I generally advise people to use. For me, the fact that 70% was queried and 78% was queried in the UK, I generally advise to use about 75% minimum for time spent on provision of advice, and this also gives a little bit of buffer zone if things go a little bit wrong. And of course, if you have HCPs attending one ad board from both the UK and Ireland, you have to use the strictest level, so that would be the 70% minimum, 75% a bit better. And of course, if you are involving Irish HCPs, do not forget that you need to notify the HPRA 6 weeks in advance of you conducting that advisory board. As usual, any questions, just put them below. Anything else you want me to cover, just ask in the comments as well.